Welcome to the show. Much to the shock of media outlets all across the globe, the left-leaning electorate, and the Clinton family, America has sealed its fate and elected Donald J. Trump to be the next president of the United States. Colin, what do you think was the force behind Hillary's defeat?
I think, and I've said this on a number of occasions, that the Democratic Party nominated somebody who can win. And the reality is, agree or disagree, if you look at, Trump supporters, there's a great deal of passion. I think on the Clinton side, it was almost people were voting for her because they had to, which is not a good recipe for winning an election, especially when you're going against somebody who's very populist. Now, and I also think, ultimately, there are a lot of people on the left that were fairly disaffected with the way the primary season went, and really, the DNC wanted Hillary to be the nominee, so they did a lot of things that people questioned. So if you look at the voter turnout, it was lower than the last few elections. So it's not like there was this huge wave of support for Trump. Now, Trump's strategy, and I don't think it was a strategy, was what worked for him is the fact that he won key battleground states that gave him the electoral votes. He didn't win the popular vote. Hillary is almost 1 million votes over him.
But we don't have the popular vote as
No,
our
we don't.
winner at this point.
No.
Ron, what say you?
I agree a little bit with what Colin said. I think it's far deeper than what Hillary Clinton stood for or what she didn't stand for. I think people are upset with what's going on in Washington, and she didn't have a platform that was loud, boisterous, and really lambasting anybody, which is what the American people are looking for. And Trump did. Trump destroyed, 17 people? Hillary included.
Right.
She was in it. So he came out loud and clear because of what he said, how he said it, and didn't care in what manner he did say it.
Well, and I would argue that he threw more than 17 people under the bus, because not only did he throw the people under the bus that he was running against, he also threw former presidents, former administrations, including Republican administrations, like George W. Bush, and frankly, war heroes like John McCain and others. So, I mean, there was nobody that he didn't attack if he felt like attacking them.
Yeah,
Ken?
I definitely agree. I think really a lot of the force behind Clinton losing is because she was viewed as an establishment candidate, where Donald Trump was not. I think that had, for example, Bernie Sanders been the Democrat candidate, I think Bernie Sanders would have probably been president right now, because he was viewed as the non-established candidate for the Democratic Party. Voters are angry. Voters are tired of status quo. The good news in all of that is they're starting to wake up a little bit to other options other than the major two parties.
Well, and look, I think, first of all, I don't believe that, one way or another, I think the one thing we can agree on is Donald Trump will not be a classic president or a traditional type of president. What I think is going to end up happening, and I think that he has no problem catering his message to the audience. So I think that what Donald Trump did during the first of all, during the primary, and toned down a little bit during the general election, but by that point he already had a certain amount of momentum, was to give a message to the Republican primary voters that they wanted to hear, which doesn't necessarily translate into his policy stances once he's in office. I don't think he has that level of consistency or that level of standing by his, whatever he had said. And we've seen that already. He's contradicted himself many times. So it's going to be interesting, because I think that the Republicans bought themselves a centrist in, fascist clothing, with some streaks of fascism potentially based on some of the nominees or some of the cabinet choices he's made for the transition team.
So I really don't know what we have. And I think at some level that's a good thing, and at some level it's a bad thing. I think his cabinet choices and the people that he's talking about for cabinet are unlike any I've ever seen. And Ron, you and I talked about before the show that there were some names that we all recognize in there, but there are some names that you would expect to see in there that I don't see in there. So, I mean, I think from a policy perspective, I think it's going to be harder to be the quote-unquote non-classical president than what we all may think, because there's a whole lot of people that are ingrained and embedded with what they do. And turning that ship, as much as he may want to and as much as he may stand up at the podium and scream about it, turning that ship, I think, is going to be a lot harder to do than what he imagined.
I think he thinks he's captaining a speedboat, not a ship. Okay, so I think one of the things, you cannot be an outsider and bring all insiders back in.
Right.
And that's what's happening right now. We're looking at insiders coming in to do an outsider's work.
Well, I think the interesting dynamic, and again, we have to agree on this, the Trump rise to the presidency now has been unlike any other experience we've had in recent history. So I think the old paradigms may not apply as tightly as we think they do. And keep in mind that he had, within the Republican Party, a very, very large following and a very vociferous following. Hence he was the nominee, and hence he became the president-elect. So I think that you're going to find actually that a lot of people on Capitol Hill, because they're going to have to go back to these voters, that if Trump is really upset with them, their jobs are going to be in jeopardy. They're going to do whatever he tells them to do. And I think it's going to be very, very fascinating when he proposes relatively centrist things that other presidents like Obama have proposed in the past, but because he's proposing them, they're going to get passed.
Well, it's like infrastructure. The infrastructure bill's been on the table for how many years?
Right.
So they're talking about infrastructure now, how much it will cost the taxpayers, where he gets the money, talking about more money for the military, which is all a good thing. It follows what Reagan did. But what happens now as this transition goes? And if you think what Hillary and Bill Clinton did with insider talk and insider things, when you have the husband of your daughter, the daughter's going to run the Trump empire, so to speak, and you're going to have her husband, they want to give him a top security clearance
He
to
said
sit
that
in
was
on
untrue.
briefing.
He said that was untrue.
The-
And I don't know
the
whether
fact
it is
i-
or not.
The fact is, the kids are going to be very involved in it because the kids are
They
intelligent.
Yeah, they
There's-
are.
So
there's an
you're talking-
unavoidable conflict there.
So there's going to be major conflicts that'll pale.
Conflict of interest.
It'll pale in comparison to what the Clintons did.
Well, Clinton's will pale in comparison, yeah, and that may be true. I mean, that's going to be a tightrope that I wouldn't want to try to walk, because I don't know how you get around that successfully without completely divorcing yourself from an empire that you built, and I don't think he's ready to do that.
Can the president pardon himself?
I asked that. I was part of the election coverage on HMTV, and I asked that same question before the election was done, because if it was Hillary or if it was Trump, can the president pardon himself or herself? So it'll be interesting. Any rate, up next, our panel takes a closer look at how the Trump administration is shaping up, plus other local topics and local election results. We're back in 3 minutes. Stay with us here on the Flip Side.